Welcome to the latest podcast brought to you from Motorfinity HQ. Motorfinity is proud to support the NHS and care sectors and help raise awareness of the services available in our local community. My name is Rini. In this episode, I'm talking to CEO Louise Sinclair, Head of Care Karen Brown, and Ambassador Sandra White from Beaumont House, all on a mission to bust the common myths surrounding their work in hospice care. The likelihood is, if you haven't been already, you will be touched by the following issues at some point in your life. Listen up, here we go. Okay, welcome everybody.
Thank you.
I want to start off by saying, really, the statement that sometimes in this life we're presented with a test before we learn the lessons, I've found. And I think, certainly my first experience of dealing with terminal illness and the hospice world was just that. So I had to take the test and then learn the lessons. It's now 30 years since my father passed away, and it was in a household where nobody talked openly. Strangers, as my mother would call them, were not welcome, and on reflection we knew very little about the services that were available to us. And it was a battle. So to cut a long story short, my introduction to the hospice world came just 3 days before my father died, and I couldn't believe what a place of the hospice was, in contrast to the hospital setting with it. It's tranquil, it was discreet, and it was a compassionate place, and very fitting. But 30 years on, I just wonder, I think I'm hoping that this podcast will continue to dispel some of the myths out there, because I think there's still a lot of myths that people believe about the hospice world. So certainly we're all going to be touched by it at some point, and obviously all three of you are working in this capacity. So let's hope we can introduce people to a few more lessons out there about exactly what is happening before they have to take that test, really, isn't it? So the first one I know, Louise, you mentioned was there's still this misconception that hospice is a place to go to die. It's a place of death and dying. So
I think it's quite interesting. If we asked a group of people who don't know the hospice at all, they may well say something along those lines. And then I'm hoping that Sandra will talk about when you have been touched by the hospice, how different that feels, and those myths are completely booted out. But yes, a lot of people do still hold the thought that a hospice is a place that you go, and we very much feel that hospice is an approach to caring for people. It's about people caring, it's about people receiving care, and it doesn't matter where that is. It could be in the building, and it could be in your own home.
It's about personalising that care and taking what's important to that individual, which is completely different to another individual, and planning and focusing that care, and that can be in the hospice and that can be at home. It's about,
and it's opening up those conversations, isn't it? Like with Sandra. So do you want to tell a little bit about your story?
Yeah, well,
Sandra?
I got introduced to the hospice about a year ago. It was about July last year, when my mum got she got terminal. Yeah, she was in the middle of a terminal illness of cancer, and we got involved with Beaumont House in July. And I must admit, I was one of these people that just thought, oh, it's where you're going to die. And I was amazed. And it's not like that. It's full of tranquility. As soon as you walk through the door, it's a myth where you think that it's going to be scary, and it's where you're just going to leave everybody, and it's not. But then I had people from Bowman House come into our house, and I thought that they'd just concentrate on Mum, and totally different. They made sure all the, like myself and my dad and my daughter were properly looked after. And what was meant, that came out was supposed to be really scary. It was not.
It's calming.
Yeah, which I'm going to be soon. But
It's still early days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 9 months this month.
Right. So you're still involved with the hospice?
Yes, I've just been made an ambassador.
Yeah.
And it's quite good because it gets you out your comfort zone, and also it'd be nice to talk to other people that's been through it, because I was a non-believer. I didn't think Mum was going to die, and it opened my eyes, and thankfully my mum planned everything. And in a strange way, I'm glad I got to go through the experience. I'll never get that again, and it's made me a better person, and it's made me confront the fears that what could have been a horrible experience. To say, I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, because I didn't, but I was ready with the stages.
Yeah.
The stages of, because Bowman House made sure that I knew, or we all knew what was happening.
Yeah. So in terms of the grieving process, they're there for you.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, but very much so. I don't think
that's just one of their services, isn't it?
It is.
Beyond, that, as you say, it's not just about the patient, is it?
No.
It's about the whole family unit.
Yeah.
And my experience of that was, they were as concerned about me after my father had died as they were leading up to his end of life. So I think I had not understood that about hospice care.
And I don't that helps with the grief, doesn't it? To have to be that prepared in such a way will absolutely help with that grieving process.
Yeah, so that's, again, it's that awareness that you want to get out there, that these are the services that you can provide within the hospice care, whether that's, as you say, in the building or...
Absolutely, it's very different probably to the experiences most people have had leading up to that time. You've perhaps been going to your GP, or you've been going into hospital or seeing other specialists. But overwhelmingly when people come into Beaumont House or any other hospice, they are overwhelmed by that feeling of how we wrap our arms around the whole family, because it is important for us to help everybody to ease the grief and bereavement process, which is so painful. But if you're, as you've said, Sandra, you've been prepared and your eyes are wide open, so you've got all the information that you need to make the decisions and make the plans and have those tricky conversations as a family.
Yeah. We can also help to create memories that actually, if we weren't involved, so lovely memories. So we've got lots of stories of, situations where staff have helped to create a lovely situation for the patient and the family, and it's left them with really lovely lasting memories that they can treasure forever, and that's because we really try and focus and really try and draw out what is really important to each individual, and then try and go above and beyond, and it's not just about the physical care and the it's about actually what can we do to help them live as well as they possibly can, and that's sometimes a bit sort of thinking about outside of the box of
So
how can we
far
create those
And
memories.
far beyond the medical needs.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
it is like a switch, isn't it? Because we so often focus on the death and dying process,
Yeah.
that actually the living well,
Absolutely.
we have to, that's just one of the myths that we have to keep trying to overcome, because the hospice is about helping you to live as well as you can until the time comes. And so switching that gives a more positive spin on hospice care, hopefully.
Yeah, well, that's very true, because I must admit I was focused on Mum, and I wasn't focusing on me. And the staff kept saying, "Are you all right?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "No, are you okay?"
Are you all right?
Yes, yeah. And another thing as well, because my daughter suffers, excuse me, with dyslexia, they made sure she was all right and could understand it, because she, sometimes she couldn't understand about the dying, and she did. So that I find that, just
Yeah,
just-
they're different relationships, aren't
Yeah.
they? You know, mum, daughter,
yeah,
and then you've got grandmother, granddaughter is another. It's a very special relationship, isn't
Yeah.
it? So that's all taken into account, isn't it? That you offering
Yes,
that
and families
service.
have very different dynamics.
oh gosh, yeah.
So, it can be really complicated when families are either spread out far and wide, or maybe have some complexities within. But that's something that we try and help with, if there are any wishes before somebody dies, to perhaps
Encourage relationships.
to put things right, or to say things that they wish to say.
Yeah, well, that was one thing. Mum said she was not going into hospital. So when excuse me, when the moment house came, she was adamant. She kept saying to me, "You're not going to put me into hospital, are you?" And they were just making sure she was comfy at all times, even brushing her hair, and just it is all about the patient, but it's also about the other people as well in the family, and then you can do the experience all together. And because it is a hard time, it really is a hard time, and to make it easier,
I think particularly if you're a full-time carer at home,
which it was,
it's so important to know those services that the hospice provides, to come in and give that support, whatever it might be, because there are lots of different services that can go in, aren't there? I know a friend of mine had someone to go in and sit through the night, so that she was able to get some sleep, because she'd not been able to.
It's important to relieve that burden of somebody feeling that overwhelming responsibility if they are the main carer, and actually it's telling them, no, it's okay now, you can be daughter, you can be wife, you can be son or brother or whatever, and we can step in and take some of that responsibility from your shoulders.
Person that you can, it's okay, you can rest now. Whatever that service might be. But just a quick break to let you know that Motorfinity saves you thousands on brand new cars. The UK's NHS, Armed Forces veterans, emergency services, prison service, education and care sectors are all part of our eligible audience. To date, we have saved our customers an average of £7,000 on the price of the brand new car.
And that's where the services are sometimes hidden, isn't it? We've talked about the hospice as a physical house, and hopefully it is more than a house, it's a welcoming, homely place. But people don't often realise all the services that we have beyond that. So we can look after you at home, we can offer complementary therapy, we continue the care into bereavement, there's the overnight care, and there's, for people who are perhaps living with their long-term condition or their incurable condition, it's supporting the carers maybe over a longer period of time as well, not just in the last final phase, final weeks.
I don't know if you access any of the carer support, Sandra, but that is also something that is just solely for the carers.
No, I didn't know that.
We have a drop-in group.
Because that's the other thing as well, isn't it, when you're bereaved, that at the time there's this outpouring of compassion and support, and then, you know, and things take their course, and then maybe a few weeks, a few months down the line, all of a sudden there's a bit of a solitary feel about it. Where's everybody gone? Or, you know, so if you've got that, again, that reinforcement of we're here for you, and I think that's and people like yourself going out there, and you in a sense working through your grief, aren't you?
Yeah, because
Do you think, I got it right? That you,
Well, I carried on as if nothing had happened. Not that I couldn't put it into words, like my dad and my daughter were crying, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't.
Okay.
But I think all of a sudden I was the head of the household, because we all lived together. So I put my feelings aside, and thankfully I've been to counselling and at Bowman House, and it's helped me no end. So now I can look at pictures of Mum, and I've still not cried, never have, but I can just see her, and I can talk to her now, and without thinking, well, is she here, is she not? And I know she's not. So again, thanks to the bereavement, it helped me no end.
Working through that.
Yeah.
So you and I have quite, in a sense, that we've been talking about cancer, relatives with cancer, haven't we?
Yeah.
But I know, and I didn't know at the time, that I always felt, you know, I thought that the hospice was there for cancer patients, but Karen, come on, let's put it right today.
The hospice is there for anybody that needs us, and that can be somebody that's living with a condition that's, you know, just comes along with old age, just a frailty. You don't have to have a diagnosis of cancer, certainly, but, you know, I think you're allowed to die of old age, and you are eligible for the same support that everybody else has with a diagnosis of cancer or a long-term condition. But we're
still
here for
fighting
everybody.
that one, aren't
we are,
because we still haven't, you know, if we look at our statistics, we're still getting a majority of patients with cancer compared to other conditions or no diagnosis, like you've said. So we've got some way to go on that, and that's doing things like this really helps to say people with, you know, heart failure and lung conditions, all sorts of things can have that support from hospice in the last short years of life.
And we know, or you know, statistics tell us that the need for hospice care is going to grow and grow and grow, you know, as the years go along. And I think that's partly because hopefully conditions that will be recognised, such as frailty, more and more and more, to be able to enable people to access or to know that they can access that sort of care. And, you know, there is still that stigma that it is just cancer, and that, you know, that's just not the case.
But in that same breath, I know that you have no age limit either, do you, in terms of you're there for
over 18.
Over 18.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people again feel that it's
you've got to be over
65.
Yeah.
And in terms of care, I know you're head of care, Karen, so I mean, there may be some people out there who are frightened, and they think that the hospital is the place for them because they have all the medical services that they're possibly going to need in that situation. So how would you respond to that in terms of...
I think hospital certainly has its place, and I think, you know, sometimes it is right for a person to be in hospital if they're needing those clinical interventions. However, I think, you know, it's important to recognise that actually when it gets to a stage where the hospital is not the right place and it's not the right environment, that the hospice shifts that focus from trying to cure you and trying to test you and doing interventions. It's noisy, it's bright, there's limited visiting, to actually coming into an environment where the care is solely focused around you, and as Sandra quite rightly says, you and your family, and the family are just as important, and we can really pull apart what is important to you and build that care
and
around
it's about choice as well, isn't it? Because that's the other thing. We are a small hospice, but we are fortunate to have the range of services that could allow you to die whether you choose that to be home or in the hospice. Most people don't want to die in hospital. Some people have no choice because maybe their symptoms or their condition is so complex. But we could support more people at home if they know about us, and if we get the referrals in, so giving the confidence for people to approach us, because we have an open referral system. Anyone can walk through our door, and that's quite unusual for a hospice as well.
And I think that was the bit I was going to come on to next as well, is that anyone can walk through our door, and that again,
it's very unique.
Do people out there realise that you are predominantly a charity, aren't you?
Yes,
so in terms of your role, Louise, do you want to talk about funding a little bit?
Yes, it's important to note that, because again, myths around this could be we're fully funded by the NHS, or that we're a rich charity because we've got a high profile in the town. So we'll just kick those out.
I think
or
you have to pay. That is another myth.
Or
how
you
much
can't
do I owe
get
you?
into the hospice. We've heard that, haven't you? So we won't try. So all of these things fly around. But what we do encourage is people to drop in, give us a call, come to our garden party, which is coming up shortly, or one of our open days, to come and have a chat with us. It might be that somebody's earlier in their condition or disease, or it might be that actually somebody reaches crisis and then they pick up the phone. So we have all these circumstances. But we do reassuringly get a number every month of self or family referrals. So the message is getting out there, it's trickling out there. But we hope.
Yes, because I just wonder if you asked, Tom, Dick, Harry on the streets, how many of them would know that you can actually self-refer?
Because it is a unique USP of our hospice as well. It is quite a rare thing, so people aren't used to it. They think they might have to go to the GP for them to refer, but we do often, and it does happen, thankfully, people literally just walking off the street and say, can you help me? Or we have people ringing up from the hospital bedside of their relative, and we often do intervene, and we've been known to kind of then ring the ward, and then that starts the referral. So we're really very open and keen to get referrals.
But you did mention funding, so I'm just going to go back to that one. Whilst we've got the opportunity.
I find it incredible that I think we need to put it out there as to, what you have to do in terms of keeping the hospice running.
We've touched on the range of services, so to provide all of those services this year is going to be £2.2 million. And of that, we are receiving 25%, which comes through sort of the NHS route to subsidise us. So that's a huge amount that we have to keep going back to the community for. And our income is a mixture of applying for trusts and foundations, and our retail arm, and events, and sort of things that we do in memoriam. So we've had feathers in the past and other things. So that all contributes to the pot. And 90% of our outgoings are our people, because that's what we are. We're lean everywhere else, as lean as we can be.
And I know you've got some sort of plans to extend the service. So how's that going to help the people? Because like you say as well, I mean, the community. So,
well, Karen mentioned, there's an increasing demand for several reasons. One is the population in and around Newark and Sherwood. There's a lot of building, so the local population will increase, and that will eventually increase demand on our service. And we also know that people are living longer with more complex needs, and so the demand is going to go up, and we are bursting at the seams at Beaumont House. So the anticipated need is for somewhere between 6 and 8 beds instead of the 4 that we've got. So we're currently looking for a piece of land to build a new hospice, and this will help in so many ways, because at the moment we mentioned sort of the profile, maybe people think it's for older people. That could be partly our building. So somewhere that's contemporary and light, and
we'll just move in here.
We'll just move in. Yes, it's a Motorfinity building.
Beds in there.
So we're hoping that will attract a wider.
Know what? I'm sure there's ways we can help. Just have that corner over there.
Yes, you need local businesses to get involved, don't you?
We will do.
So,
we will do.
Yes,
when the time
we're
has
always
come,
keen to.
and we found a piece of land, there will be a capital appeal, and we'll be looking to our supporters and partners. But that's it's not a dream. It's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I need to do it for local people.
It is happening, isn't it? I mean, I know like the Maggie's, the walk-in is an incredible building, isn't it? And so we want that to happen here, don't we? So,
we do. We want to future-proof things for the area.
Yeah.
Beaumont House has been in existence since 1987. It served very, very well. So we're very grateful to the building and the founders, but it's time for something a little bit different to support people with the needs that we're seeing, which are more difficult.
Just need to evolve, don't we?
We do.
Evolve with the times.
Yes. So 87, that's you're not far off your Ruby, won't it?
Yes, we shall have to do something to really celebrate 40.
Yeah. So have you got any long-term, have you got a target sort of period of time, or it's just going to drive it until...
Well, it's in our 5-year strategy.
It is.
Yeah, and
it is. Yeah. No pressure on delivering that. It really, once we've got a piece of land, we can get the plan moving. But it's just that first step. And land is sort of very tight in the town, so it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. So come on, everybody.
Yes.
We'll all become ambassadors. Drive it on, because it's inevitable. I can remember being at a business club meeting when we were all raised, we all stood up.
Oh yes.
Can you remember? So bit by bit we were sitting down, and inevitably by the end of it. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, we were trying to demonstrate, weren't we, how we're all
I'm not
touched.
Explaining it very well, so you do it.
I think we started off, I've got to recall this now. I think we started off by saying, had anybody directly been affected by Beaumont House? So there were several people in the room, and then do you know somebody, and then is there anybody in here who's not going to die, basically, because we could all be touched by Beaumont House in the future, so we all need to support, because
that's the big message, isn't it?
That's the big message.
And support you in the right way.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I was about to say, that's why when I got asked to be an ambassador, I was a bit scared, but then I thought, do you know what, it's time I put back what we took out of it, and I will do my best. It's an honour, and I know for a fact my mum would be proud.
Yes.
So I will do anything to do. Well, not anything, but I just realised I might put my foot in there. I'm not skydiving, by the way. But I will do whatever I can to help. Because
You're not going to go skydiving then?
no, my daughter might do, but no. I will, whereas possible, I will do support. Yeah.
And there is lots happening, isn't there? So
and we're really pleased that you've agreed to be an ambassador, because this is a new role for us, but nobody can share their story like those who have been through it. And so we're very grateful for you sharing your story so publicly.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, Sam.
I've just got to think there's nobody, I can't see anybody, just us four.
We're just having a cosy chat, aren't we?
Yes, but obviously there's going to be loads listening, but my advice would be to talk about, as a family, about death, because I was the world's most, just didn't want to talk about it, wanted to sweep it under the carpet, as I do. But thankfully, Bowman House helped us not to. And like I said at the beginning, what was a traumatic experience ended up not being too bad. I mean, it was bad enough, but we knew the stages, so it wasn't as bad. So that I'll be grateful for. That's why I'm glad I'm doing this ambassador job.
So you would recommend that people plan ahead, have conversations?
Oh gosh, yes.
Tell you what they wish for.
Yeah. I mean, because I live with my dad, he's 81, and we're even discussing his funeral plans and what he wants to do. And this is a lot easier because we've been through it with Mum. Even my 18-year-olds do not want to, talk about death, and she's even in on it now. So anybody who has doubts, don't.
It doesn't make things happen any quicker, does it?
No.
It just helps to relieve that, the anxiety, and it brings it out in the open. And often families find that nobody's talking about it, and actually they all probably want to talk about it, but nobody wants to start the conversation for fear of upsetting that other person, when actually,
I think we're getting
we've
there,
all thought about our own
in
death,
terms
haven't we?
of encouraging the talk and talking openly rather than denying it. And I can remember having that conversation with I've got 3 children, and having that conversation, and that I think everybody should be having that conversation at some point. And it's like illness itself, isn't it? I know I've got this condition at the minute where it's a genetic thing, and my family would never talk about illness in that generation, parents, grandparents, they just didn't talk about it. But and it's so important, isn't it? And so I'm having that conversation with mine. I'll have that conversation about, if anything does happen, and my eldest will say, "Oh, Mum, you're never going to die." Well, I am. So come on. We have that conversation, and I think it's so important to talk freely.
And it doesn't have to be a depressing, dark conversation. It can be light-hearted.
Absolutely.
There are lots of different resources you can use to help prompt these conversations. You can get conversation cards, and it doesn't have to be that. And as I said, it doesn't make it happen any quicker. Talking about it, it's going to happen to us all, as you said. Talking about it is not going to make that happen sooner.
And plus, it makes the person who is going to die make sure they've got their wishes. And if everyone knows, there's no point afterwards saying, "Oh, I should have done this." Talk and get every wish that you would like down, and then they're going to at least have got what they really want.
One of the things to help with that is a booklet that we've recently published called Ducks in a Row. So getting your ducks in a row, and it goes through all the things that you should think about, and it's all documented in one place, so you could use that to prompt the conversation.
That's excellent. So that was going to be one of my final questions, really, was that if there's any
publications that we want to get out there, then
absolutely,
let's do that.
Anybody's welcome to a copy of that.
Yeah.
Available at reception at Beaumont House.
There you go. That's brilliant. Just go through that blue door.
Come through the blue door. We'd love to say hello.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
And thanks,
Thank you
Sandra.
so much, Sandra.
Before you go, our podcast aims to raise awareness of the organisations providing much needed services in the UK and highlighting the stories of extraordinary people doing extraordinary work in our communities. We have one small favour to ask you. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit the subscribe button. It's free and supports us in supporting you. This is why we do what we do. We aim to make a difference. Can you help by subscribing now?